Ever wondered how an ordinary boy sold into slavery by his own brothers could rise to become the second most powerful man in one of the greatest empires in history? This isn't a fantasy novel. It's the incredible true story of Joseph, a tale of dreams, betrayal, and ultimate triumph. Let's dive deep into this journey that starts in a simple tent and ends in a magnificent palace. Our story begins with a young man named Joseph. He was the 11th of 12 sons. But he was special. His father, Jacob, loved him more than any of his other children, and he wasn't shy about showing it. He gave Joseph a stunning, multicolored coat, a symbol of his favor. Now, you can imagine how his older brothers felt about this. Sibling rivalry is one thing. But this was on another level. The coat was a constant, vibrant reminder that they were second best in their father's eyes. To make matters worse, Joseph was a dreamer. And we're not just talking about daydreaming. He had vivid, prophetic dreams. In one dream, he saw himself and his brothers binding sheaves of grain in a field. Suddenly, his sheaf stood upright, while his brothers' sheaves gathered around and bowed down to it. He told his brothers this dream, and, well, you can guess their reaction. "Are you really going to reign over us?" they sneered. The jealousy was already simmering, and this just turned up the heat. Then came another dream. This time, Joseph saw the sun, the moon, and 11 stars bowing down to him. He shared this one with his father and his brothers. Even his father, who favored him, was a bit taken aback. "What is this dream you've had?" Jacob asked, "Will your mother and I and your brothers actually come and bow down to the ground before you?" His brothers' jealousy turned into outright hatred. They saw him not as a brother, but as an arrogant kid who needed to be put in his place. One day, Jacob sent Joseph to check on his brothers, who were grazing their flocks miles away. Seeing him approach from a distance, wearing that famous coat, they saw their chance. Their hatred boiled over. "Here comes the dreamer," they said to each other. "Let's kill him and throw him into a pit. We'll say a wild animal devoured him. Then we'll see what becomes of his dreams." But Reuben, the eldest brother, had a flicker of conscience. He suggested they just throw Joseph into an empty cistern in the wilderness, secretly planning to rescue him later. The others agreed. So when Joseph arrived, they ripped the beautiful coat from his back and threw him into the dry pit. They then sat down to eat, callously indifferent to their brothers' cries. As they were eating, they saw a caravan of Ishmaelite traders heading towards Egypt. Judah, another brother, had a grimly practical idea. "What will we gain if we kill our brother and cover up his blood?" He said, "Let's sell him to the Ishmaelites. After all, he is our brother, our own flesh and blood." It was a terrible choice, but it was better than murder. So they pulled Joseph out of the cistern and sold him for 20 shekels of silver. Their little brother was now a slave, on his way to a foreign land. To cover their tracks, they slaughtered a goat and dipped Joseph's coat in the blood. They brought the tattered, stained garment back to their father. Jacob recognized it immediately, and his heart shattered. He concluded a ferocious animal had torn Joseph to pieces. He mourned for his son for a long, long time, refusing to be comforted. The brothers had gotten rid of Joseph, but they had brought a cloud of unbearable grief over their family. Meanwhile, Joseph arrived in Egypt. The traders sold him to a man named Potiphar, who was no ordinary person. He was the captain of Pharaoh's guard, a high-ranking official. And here, in the house of a powerful Egyptian, Joseph's fortunes began to change, but not in the way you might expect. Joseph wasn't bitter or broken. Instead, he worked hard and with integrity. He was so capable and trustworthy that everything he touched seemed to prosper. Potiphar saw this. He noticed that this young Hebrew slave was remarkably blessed. He promoted Joseph, putting him in charge of his entire household. Everything, his house, his fields, his finances, was under Joseph's management. Potiphar didn't have to worry about a single thing because Joseph handled it all. It seemed like Joseph's life was finally getting back on track. He had found stability and success even as a slave. But another trial was just around the corner. Potiphar's wife noticed the handsome young man running her household. Day after day, she tried to seduce him, but Joseph refused. He was loyal to his master, who had trusted him with everything. "How could I do such a wicked thing," he told her, "and sin against God?" His integrity was unshakable. One day, she cornered him when no one else was in the house. She grabbed his cloak, pleading with him. Joseph did the only thing he could do. He fled, leaving his cloak in her hand. Scorned and furious, she decided to get her revenge. She called her household servants, and then her husband Potiphar, waving Joseph's cloak as false evidence. "That Hebrew slave you brought us came in here to mock me," she lied. "But as soon as I screamed for help, he ran out, leaving his garment." Potiphar was enraged. Without a fair trial, without hearing Joseph's side of the story, he had Joseph thrown into the royal prison, the very place where the king's prisoners were kept. From the head of a great household, Joseph was cast down into the darkness of a dungeon. It must have felt like a terrible repeat of his past, being thrown into a pit all over again. But even in the bleakness of prison, Joseph's character shone through. He didn't despair. He continued to be diligent and responsible. Soon, the warden of the prison took notice of Joseph, just as Potiphar had. He saw that Joseph was reliable and trustworthy. The warden put Joseph in charge of all the other prisoners. The prison's operations ran smoothly under Joseph's care because, as before, everything he did prospered. 2 new prisoners arrived one day: Pharaoh's chief cupbearer and chief baker. They had offended the king and were thrown into the same prison. One morning, Joseph saw that they both looked incredibly sad. He asked them what was wrong. They told him they each had a dream the night before, but there was no one to interpret them. Joseph, remembering his own past with dreams, said, "Do not interpretations belong to God? Tell me your dreams." The cupbearer went first. He dreamt of a vine with 3 branches that budded, blossomed, and produced ripe grapes. He took the grapes, squeezed them into Pharaoh's cup, and gave it to the king. Joseph's interpretation was swift and positive. "The 3 branches are 3 days," he explained. "In 3 days, Pharaoh will lift you up and restore you to your position. You'll be serving him his wine just like before." Then Joseph made a plea, "But when all goes well with you, remember me. Mention me to Pharaoh and get me out of this prison." Next, it was the baker's turn. He was hopeful after hearing the cupbearer's good news. He described his dream: 3 baskets of white bread on his head, and in the top basket were all kinds of baked goods for Pharaoh, but birds were eating them out of the basket. Joseph's interpretation for the baker was grim. "The 3 baskets are 3 days," he said. "In 3 days, Pharaoh will lift off your head and impale your body on a pole, and the birds will eat away your flesh." Everything happened exactly as Joseph had predicted. 3 days later, on Pharaoh's birthday, the chief cupbearer was restored to his position. The chief baker was executed. But in his joy and relief, the cupbearer forgot all about the young man in prison who had given him hope. Joseph was left to languish in the dungeon. 2 more full years passed, 2 years of waiting, of being forgotten. Then Pharaoh himself had a dream. In fact, he had 2 very disturbing dreams in one night, and they troubled him deeply. He dreamt he was standing by the Nile River when 7 fat, healthy cows came up out of the river and began to graze. Then 7 ugly, gaunt cows came up after them and ate the healthy ones. Pharaoh woke up, but fell asleep again and had a second dream. This time he saw 7 plump, good heads of grain growing on a single stalk. Then 7 thin heads, scorched by the east wind, sprouted up and swallowed the healthy heads. The next morning, Pharaoh was distressed. He summoned all the magicians and wise men of Egypt, but no one could tell him what his dreams meant. That's when the chief cupbearer finally remembered. "Today I am reminded of my failings," he said to Pharaoh. He told the story of his time in prison, of the young Hebrew man who had correctly interpreted his dream and the baker's dream. Pharaoh immediately sent for Joseph. They rushed him out of the dungeon, had him shave and change his clothes, and brought him before the most powerful man in the world. Pharaoh told him, "I have had a dream that no one can interpret, but I have heard it said of you that when you hear a dream, you can interpret it." Joseph's response was humble. "I cannot do it," he replied, "but God will give Pharaoh the answer he desires." Pharaoh recounted his 2 dreams. After listening carefully, Joseph explained that the 2 dreams were one and the same. God was revealing to Pharaoh what he was about to do. The 7 good cows and the 7 good heads of grain are 7 years of great abundance throughout the land of Egypt. Joseph said, "But the 7 gaunt cows and the 7 worthless heads of grain are 7 years of famine that will follow. The famine will be so severe that the years of plenty will be completely forgotten." But Joseph didn't stop at the interpretation. He offered a solution. "Now let Pharaoh look for a discerning and wise man and put him in charge of the land of Egypt," he advised. "Let Pharaoh appoint commissioners to take 1/5 of the harvest during the 7 years of abundance and store it in the cities. This food will be a reserve for the 7 years of famine, so that the country will not be ruined." The plan was brilliant. It was practical, insightful, and exactly what Pharaoh needed to hear. Pharaoh and all his officials were impressed. The king turned to his court and said, "Can we find anyone like this man, one in whom is the Spirit of God?" Then Pharaoh looked at Joseph and made a stunning declaration. "Since God has made all this known to you, there is no one so discerning and wise as you. You shall be in charge of my palace, and all my people are to submit to your orders. Only with respect to the throne will I be greater than you." And just like that, Joseph, the boy sold into slavery, the man forgotten in a dungeon, was elevated to the highest position in the land, second only to Pharaoh himself. Pharaoh took off his own signet ring and put it on Joseph's finger. He dressed him in robes of fine linen and put a gold chain around his neck. He gave him a new Egyptian name, Zaphanath-Paneah, and a wife from a prominent family. At the age of 30, Joseph went from prisoner to prime minister. He was no longer just a dreamer. He was the man who would save a nation, and in doing so, he would ultimately save the very family that had betrayed him. His journey was a testament to resilience, integrity, and faith. From a pit to a prison to a palace, Joseph's story shows us that even in our darkest moments, a greater plan can be at work. Thanks for watching this incredible story unfold with us. If you were inspired by Joseph's journey, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe. Trummy for Christ for more epic tales from history. God bless you. See you in the next video.